What is going on, traders? All right, so in my opinion, this would be kind of the most important Gann levels that you could apply to Bitcoin specifically right now, and this is the yearly, which is both the fiscal and the uh, astronomical years, the same amount of data for the major swing of the previous year from either fiscal or astronomical perspective. Which is very telling that that is the data you want to be using as a Gann trader. Um, I've also got my Fibonacci levels here, and within this square, I have ninths, Gann boxes set to ninths, and we don't need to go through all the data here, but you do see some respect of the ninths coming in. Um, and great results with the square itself in the historical data. There's the price holding the ninths level, literally printed price to the high at that as it came in contact with that ninths angle before respecting the arc, literally using the arc as a time cycle to ride the arc to the upside, coming back into the ninths, dropping lower, making contact with the major angle within the Gann square. This is really good stuff as far as a Gann trader. But just to show that none of this is random. This is a very specific trading method, and the way you want to be viewing it is, this might seem very busy, and I know that's kind of an argument that a lot of people have with Gann's work. There's so many lines, all these lines. Well, they're just mathematical overlays, and you're expecting the market, especially from an ICT perspective, if things are mathematical and moving off of an algorithm, this should make sense to you. And even if you're just the interpretation of like something like Gann had, which makes a lot of sense in Bitcoin, if it's completely decentralized, it's going to move to natural math. So you want to be looking at natural angles and geometry created within that. So you would be expecting price to ride this sort of a thing to the upside. You just have targets. You want to see price eventually get to this major angle within the Gann square. You want to see price get to this level within the Gann square, right? And the way it would do that is hopefully, in a perfect world, through this, the geometry of the Gann box, the ninths, right? But just to show that this is not completely random, I'm just going to jump over to my other Bitcoin chart. And from here, it is the January, and it's both the January to January. This is the high of 2022 to the low, and it also happens to be the March to March, or the astronomical year, high or low. Back here, December 31st peaked a little bit higher, but as of January, this is the high to the low, really telling you to put your focus there as a Gann trader as far as measuring and implying and imposing geometry onto that particular market data. And so we want to lay our Gann square, the same kind of method that I showed in my most recent Gann video, how to Gann. We're lining up the square with the 2 and the trend line, the 2 time cycle and the trend line that was created from the high to low, extending out. We're lining that intersection up, and the first thing you adjust is always the time sequence, adjusting that to the center. And in this case, I have, it's already a big enough box. I've actually decided to shrink it, or sorry, just extend it rather to the 2 right here, right, to the green line. I'm not extending it all the way to the orange line out there. So a little bit smaller in some cases, but with this, you're going to see the exact same numbers show themselves here. 1190, right? Which is the exact same figures in the Gann box produced here. It is the exact same overlay. There's, again, nothing random to it. The geometry is identical. So it's reproducible, and it's because of the data that I've squared. I've squared it to very specific time. and that price that we're measuring is a very specific time sequence of 2, and I'm squaring it in a very specific manner with the center point and to this particular time sequence. So there's a few variables going on there, but it all breaks down to the same thing, just allowing you to project out your entire square if you like, and I'll just show how I go ahead and apply all of my different levels there with the Gann box and everything as well. So 1190, and for my box, I'm going to pop on squares here, and I like to get right in here. I like to zoom it right in, see how it's a little offset. I like to try to clean that up a bit. And I'll just make sure this is the 9th, the first one, and then I'll get in here with another one because it is 2 boxes that are needed. TradingView has pretty limited tools as far as a Gann trader would be interested in, but mostly because his work is not understood even amongst Gann traders, but and the work that is understood doesn't produce the same results that it once did, and that's because the markets have switched to a free-floating regime, currencies especially, and where news drivers are now very relevant. In interest rates and inflation is all very relevant, which it was not previously. Things were very much more natural based off of the commodities, the gold standard that we were on. But so this is the exact same data here. I can just unlock it, and you can see all that same behavior coming into play here. Price respecting the 9th level, dropping, respecting the arc, all the exact same information here as previously. And in my opinion, this is kind of the most relevant piece of information for Bitcoin from a Gann trader perspective. And when you start, and the reason why I like Gann's work is because it gives you ridiculously big targets. And I've found ways to make just kind of fractalize this math to make it bigger. But ultimately, from just this yearly measurement here, if Bitcoin's long, it's not going to shoot straight. Let's say it did shoot up right here, right now. If price is to meet equilibrium, which is what is meant through Gann's work, when this middle angle of the Gann square comes into play, if price were to find equilibrium, and that were to happen today, that would be a price of 118,500 or so. Realistically, price is probably going to take some more time to get there. It's not going to just parabolically get there, which just means higher targets for Bitcoin. Very likely that we see this 2022 box get violated to the upside, and it could take some time to get there, which just leans the targets that much higher, right? The longer it takes to get there, you're just going to have higher targets, right? But so hopefully this was helpful and insightful. If we look at, like I showed in my previous video there, we start to extend some Gann, some ICT concepts on there. We start to see, this kind of an angle, riding this kind of a thing to the upside makes a lot of sense, right? Riding this Gann square, Gann box, the 9ths ratios, makes a lot of sense. If price comes to the 2, it would be to the top side of this little channel here, and likely to settle, possibly even coming back down to the 1. Very common behavior for a market that is kind of consolidating after hitting that 2 to 2.5, and then the next stop would be the 4. Right? I don't have that on here, but let's just pop it on for lols. We got the 4 and just higher extensions from there. Again, this is a pretty internal thing. Realistically, you could be projecting something as dramatic as the all-time high, and in which case these more extreme levels just start to look more reasonable, for again for this box to get cleared is literally in the middle of a 2 to 2.5, which is very common behavior for ICT's work for this 2 to 2.5 extension, for kind of right in the middle of it to come in before any sort of a pullback. So I like the look of this. I think it's shaping up well. It could indicate a strong, uh, crypto future here. But conversely, and just a wise man once told me, which I neglected for many years, but the point that I started becoming a little bit profitable in the markets was the point that I accepted that the strongest market is the U.S. dollar. It's the most overrated. Everybody thinks it's going to fail and collapse, but ultimately, at the end of the day, they are the military power of this world, and they'll do whatever they want, right? So, um, I would not be surprised to see, we could see some, even a sweep of liquidity here coming back into this. And this kind of an arc, this major arc, is going to be pretty important for Bitcoin in the future. How does price behave when it gets there? Is it going to roll right off of it? In which case, that could be bad news. Do you see how natural that was for me just to run that down? Literally zeroing Bitcoin out, or certainly humbling it to be worth less than a dollar, which most things on the planet should be. If you're the most powerful country on the planet, most other currency forms should be less than yours. But I digress. We'll wrap this up here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the little Gann demo here. There's a ton of different things that can be done with Gann's work. Um, you very really can be creative with it. I find that this is kind of the most reliable, is measuring out yearly and quarterly swings, and projecting that forward, right? But we'll see. We'll see what Bitcoin leads for us in the future. Is it the future of money? Because if it is, these levels are going to be coming back into play, which means hundreds of thousands for a Bitcoin. Um, you know, but we'll see. Time will tell. Stay safe out there, everybody. Peace.